Belief patterns that you got from your parents. Hey guys, this is Andy with Mindset Matters More, and I want to talk about this. I got a book while I was in Arizona from my cousin called Anatomy of the Spirit: The Seven Stages of Power and Healing by Carolyn Miss or Mice. I don't know how to pronounce that, but she has her PhD, okay? And so in this book, she talks a lot about the chakras and healing our belief system through them and the way that we view the world. And y'all know I'm all about it. And so today, what I want to talk about is the first chakra. So the first chakra is at the base of the spine. This one is it's supposed to support your physical family and group safety and security, your ability to provide a life. Well, let me start that again, okay? So it's supposed to be your physical family and group safety and security, the ability to provide for life's necessities, ability to stand up for yourself, feeling at home, and social and familial law and order. Okay? Dun dun. But today, I want to talk about one of the self-examination questions that she brought up. And it says this: what belief patterns did you inherit from your family? And oh man, if I could go on and on about these, I would. Because ultimately, you're born into a belief system, right? You don't get to name yourself. You don't get to choose what schools you go to. You don't get to choose what religion you practice when you're young, for the most part. Some parents are pretty chill about that. For the most part, the religion that your parents are is what you're going to be brought up as. And so, for the beginning stages of your life, you really don't have a choice but to view the world through a lens that your parents have provided you. Of course, given if you had parents, if you had a social structure that looked like that, because there is those who grew up in group homes, those who grew up with aunts and uncles. And what I'm talking about is the authority figures that you had since birth. Okay. So I want to know, what are the belief systems that you had? So let's talk about the belief system that I had, right? So very early on, I realized that marriage was something that could be dissolved. I come from a family whose parents are divorced. So divorce is an option. Okay. I also witnessed my dad being an entrepreneur. I saw my mom being an entrepreneur. I saw that you had to work insane hours, that you had to work hard for money. I saw that money was not given, that you had to earn it. And that was through education or through sales. There was no other way about it. You weren't going to make any other money unless you were highly educated as with a doctorate or you were in sales. And mind you, I am not a salesperson, so I knew that was not going to be my way of life. So I just knew that in order to make money, I had to, you got it, go to school. And the other things that I could talk about are that, let's see. I mean, what are they? I mean, my parents never really had friends. So having friends was not something that was normal for me. Really, you just hung out with your family because you had such a big family, right? The other thing was that my parents emigrated to the US and left their family behind. So that's another thing, is that like you could just up and leave your family, right? So the thing is, my family moved here from Guatemala, and like my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, they all stayed in Guatemala. But here, when my parents separated, they pretty much adopted their spouse's family and hung out with them. So those were some of the things that I had adopted. But, the other thing is, in my family, we also place a heavy, I don't want to use that word. We place a large emphasis on the way that you look, on the way that you present yourself, on looks, on your weight, on your body style, your body type, and the way that you project yourself outwardly to the world. Now, why am I listing all this stuff off? Is because You operate from a place that you don't even consciously recognize. This is how I operated for many years. And to some degree, sometimes these things will pop up. Like when I look in the mirror and I've gained a couple pounds, I hear my grandmother talking about, ay, mijita, te ganaste unos tus libritas. Like saying, oh my God, you gained a couple pounds and patting me on the belly. Like, ugh. Like those are the things that like pop up and they just creep up out of nowhere and they will lead to a diminished sense of self-worth. They will lead to me doing extreme things in order to fight off those little demons in my head. I don't know why I turned Texan when I just spoke right there. But the point is that when you talk about how you're brought up, those things that you witness as a child, the things that happen to you prior to the age of 7 or 8, right? The imprint on your brain, and that's how you operate today. Now, that doesn't mean that, my grandmother having said those things to me, I would have followed her and been, dieting and been thin and, that would have been my life. But, since I'm not that, I tend to beat myself up because I have those things in my head. Now, what do you do about it? How do you combat that shit? First and foremost is looking at the different areas of your life, and they have, different models for it, where it's something between 8 and 12 different areas of your life. But you have your physical being, you have your mental being, your spiritual being, your financial being, your dharma being, you have your like all these different areas of your life. And you got to look, okay, what are the things that I saw my parents do and the people of authority, that's the word that I want to use, in my life that I saw growing up? What are the lessons that they were teaching me and how did I adopt those? Okay, that's step number one, is to identify what it is, and two is to identify how you still incorporate them into your life. Now, the third piece, and this is the important piece, is it serving me? Is it helping me? Is this something that I feel like, hey, I absolutely am thriving because of this belief? Okay, that's 1, 2, and 3. Now, what do you do next? Once you disprove, or if you find that these beliefs do not serve you, then it's time to reprogram your brain. How do you do that? Okay, so for me, one of the things that I have just said is that, being thin was revered as something that was valuable and something that was beautiful. Okay, now it's time to rewire my brain to understand that being thin does not necessarily mean beauty. Okay, that was just the way that they interpreted it because they had their own beliefs, because they had their own way to navigate society, but that's not true to this day. And so when I do look at myself in the mirror, I'm going to be compassionate and say compassionate things to myself that, hey, if this thought pops up, I hear you, I see you, but I don't believe you anymore. And you can do things like that to reprogram it. Just notice when these things come up throughout the day, that they're popping up and preventing you from doing things or forcing you to do things you don't want to do. And take a moment, acknowledge it, be compassionate with yourself, and then give yourself a statement to the contrary that you want to be your new belief that is going to help you to push forward and to be better with yourself. Okay. So I want you guys to do that. That's your homework. Okay. If you listen to my podcast, you got some homework. If you don't listen to me, you're probably not even listening to me right now about this. So you got homework, and that's it for me today, guys. Love you. Bye.